Hey everyone, how's it going? Mork here. Today I decided to, like 2 weeks ago there was a new patch. So today I figured it could be like a pretty fun idea to maybe just kind of go over these changes and maybe also just talk about what they mean practically speaking for Mordheim. The first change is higher sword rank based on warband rank. Essentially, there was a change in how in what the level of the hired sword ranks are. A kind of an issue was that if you had like a level 10 warband, it was pretty frustrating getting like low level like mercenaries. Well, they were essentially kind of unusable because they were too much of a low level to be like put effectively into a high level warband, and you had to be like extra careful that like nothing on them sneezes accidentally or something like that, because they would just kind of die, you know. So what does it mean for a warband rank 10 now? So right now, if your warband rank is 10, so 15 plus 15 slash 3, the math is that the minimum level of your hired sword is going to be level 5. What the maximum rank is going to be warband rank 10 plus 5 slash 2, so it's 15 slash 2, so it's 7.5. I believe, I don't think there's gonna be like any level 8 hired swords. So I believe it's gonna be like the maximum of 7. I think it's arguably a good change um for the low level ranks. Because at low level ranks, you usually didn't have gold for hired swords, which were like incredibly high level, and that was either the case for the heroes or the leaders, but also there is a sort of a downside to this, and that is that you won't be as easily able to getting a less got talent henchman. Yeah, because for example, you could get like very lucky early on in your like campaign and get like a good level 7 henchman, and you could like change that level 7 henchman into a proper character just by giving it the Let's Go Talent build. Because let's take a look at Let's Go Talent. So, what Let's Go Talent also gives, it also provides 22 skill points. So essentially what would happen is you would give your level 7 henchman the Let's Go Talent, and you would immediately also get those 22 skill points to spend for free. So it was like very cost efficient to get like Let's Go Talent, especially like Let's Go Talent marksmen are probably one of the best units. So if that happened, you are probably a very happy person, I guess. All right. Next one. So Spiteful Manifestation debuff is now stackable. So this is a change to Doomweaver. Doomweaver here with Spiteful Manifestation, the debuff is that it reduces armor absorption by 5%. I don't think this is relevant much at all for the basic version. It's very relevant for the mastery, in my opinion, because like if you're able to just reduce armor absorption of the target by like 20%, I think that's quite a big deal. And I think there might be like a spiteful manifestation, aggressive war bands, where like the Doomweaver is a bit of a support, I guess. Maybe with like a possessed leader, but like that's like very arguable. Essentially, like I think what this spell could do is it would be like, because Magister is very good with weapons of destruction, which allows you to bypass like armor absorption. Maybe if you're not running Magister, maybe you're running possessed leader or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, something like that. All right. Next one is Vision of Torment debuff is now stackable. So I think this is actually like really great news. Now, Vision of Torment is a Magister spell, right? So Vision of Torment, let's take a look. So Vision of Torment either stuns all targets around the Magister, or it inflicts a debuff that reduces the melee and range resistance by 10% or by 30%. So Vision of Torment is like pretty damn important spell, especially if you're trying to play like a Chaos Spawn. So what are the issues that the Chaos Spawn has? The issue of Chaos Spawn is that you get as weapons the armbands. There is no way for you to weapon swap and just like if I'm playing an impressive that has a way to swap weapons. Usually, in my other set of weapons is focused on having the Rune of Perseverance. It gives plus 3% higher hit chance per miss on both weapons. So eventually, you would be able to like attack a melee resistance tank. So technically speaking, you could on your armbands run like Rune of Perseverance and fix that problem that if your chaos spawn gets caught up somewhere, usually attracting lure is actually the way for you to try to solve the melee resistance tank issue. Honestly, what I'm trying to say is that you can also just try to like solve this issue by giving your magister a Vision of Torment, right? And if you like manage to also just stack like these penalties, it's gonna be great. Or if you just manage to do like a stun against that melee resistance tank, it's gonna be that. So yeah, essentially it's kind of a cool change. Next one is Bracers Initiative +5, go to -10. So Bracers is like an exclusive weapon for the Red Ogre. So let's take a look at Red Ogre here. One of the awkwardness with like the Red Ogre was that he naturally has like pretty high initiative because the bracers were at +5 and this guy is also forced to wear the cloth armor. So sometimes it was like a little bit awkward playing with the Red Ogre, I guess you could say. So if these bracers were at +5, I would be currently at like 76 initiative. And like while like for example knee shot may not be as effective if your initiative is incredibly high, like let's say it's somewhere in the 100s, right? The kind of like an awkward thing about Red Ogre is that it's stupid. Yeah, if it like fails like the stupidity check, it's not going to act. By like the Red Ogre having like a total lower initiative, it's gonna be like much easier to make heroes and henchmen with guidance, because guidance allows you to just like negate stupidity. I think this is like a relevant change. Not bad. Next one that we have is order cost goes for 4 offensive points to +1 strategy point. So originally it costs like 4 offensive points and 1 strategy point, and it's gonna go to 3 offensive points and +2 strategy points. So this change is really freaking good, and let me explain why. Let's say I'm playing like an order leader. Let's say it's like the captain, right? So I'm gonna like put an order here. And because you can see that the captain here has 9 offensive points, you want to like get as much as possible out of your orders. Because like order normally costs like 4 offensive points, you would be only able to get like 2 orders in. So automatically you always had to go for the battle tank. Yeah. So the old battle tank, what it said in the mastery was that it also reduces the cost of order by 1 offense point. And in that case, it made it so you are able to get in like 3 orders, right? But it was essentially like a tax to the order. So right now, Uh, with this change, it's going to be like optional. Like I think battle tank is still going to be amazing because I think just having order cost one strategy point, it can be it's not as amazing as you might think. Like sometimes you're running with your captain across the map to try to get like orders in, or it might also just cause your captain to not be able to go into the web of steel because you like walk somewhere to your ogre. So I think like battle tank is still going to be relevant, but right now it's at least like an option for you to like use order or not use order. Maybe if there's like any sort of a negative downside to order currently, maybe it's that I think with this change we're gonna be seeing order on every single leader, right? It doesn't matter if you're like a magister, if you're a spellcaster. I think it's now gonna always just kind of make sense to get order on your leader just in case, because it's like it's already like good uh, on its own. Um, okay. The other thing that like people will especially benefit from this change is characters like ogre here and champion. So if you're trying to play like an ogre champion before, you would have to go like born leader, right? Because this is a tax. This is a tax that you need to pay in order to make your champion a leader. And let's put in the orders. If you wanted to play like an effective champion older leader, you also had to put in battle tank, and at that point you only had like two passive skills left. But right now you don't have this tax anymore, so you can just kind of get rid of it. And for example, you could put in pause positioning as an example. So this is kind of cool, right? It also just gives you more flexibility with your captain. Is like, for example, you could go flawless positioning, but you could also, for example, start considering combat expertise, or you could also consider shield specialist and hardy. Um, so it just frees up a lot of like flexibility for the older leaders. But yeah, I think kind of like the downside is that I think all leaders should have order at this point. Oh, maybe another interesting thing about the older leaders that could be interesting. I think we also might see, like, for example, let's say I'm playing like an assassin adept, right? And let's say this is like a crit assassin adept. So you could have something like vital strike, and then adrenaline rush, and then order, right? This is just an example. So what you could do is just like Vital Strike for 3, then Vital Strike for 4, then you Adrenaline Rush, and then you also Order. So I think this sort of a thing where your like leader specializes in these sort of like special strikes, that could become a thing. Like for example, I think it could become a thing, for example, on a champion, right? But you would play like something like a strong blow champion leader. So your first attack would be like 3 attack, strong blow, then another um, 4 attack, strong blow, and then you go for a final order with adrenaline rush. And you would probably be using like either a halberd or well, probably a halberd because of like the adaptable defense works, but like it could be also a great axe or like a great hammer. So that's also just kind of like an interesting food for thought there. Maybe you could also just sort of build it on a vampire, and I think that also just kind of makes sense. So anyway, I think like ultimately this sort of a change is gonna be beneficial for the sake of like variety of the way you can like build your characters. I think that this is pretty okay. Next one that we have is Sign of Sigmar, and Sign of Sigmar melee and range resistance went from 5% at basic and mastery at 10%, 10% at basic and 50% at mastery. So Sign of Sigmar, it was like already kind of like a very decent skill. Let's say I was definitely using it before. Because I think it's just like worth it enough. But right now, I think it's gonna be incredible. I think there exists a universe where you run Sign of Sigmar, basic Sign of Sigmar, on every single hero, henchman, and leader in your warband. So Sign of Sigmar right now is like incredible. With that said, I don't think the mastery, like just giving plus 15%, is gonna be very much relevant. So, but like at basing, I think it's gonna be great. Absolute Faith also got like an amazing buff. This is essentially like kind of like a better Nerves of Steel at this point, and you're probably gonna be using this on every single melee resistance novice, so that you don't fail like Terror and you don't instantly die from losing all the dodge. There is also like consideration now, which is kind of like interesting. Because right now, if you put like Absolute Faith on leader and your leader has like 20 leadership, so with this, you have like 80% chance to pass the route check. With Absolute Faith basic, this is like 100% chance to like pass the route check. So this is also not only good because because you're gonna be essentially like immune to getting routed, but it's also interesting from the point of view of PvE. So if you, for example, notice that like the enemy matriarch has like a incredibly high all alone fear and terror resistances, it's also gonna be like very likely that she has absolute faith skill. So it's gonna be like much easier to farm the AI because it will not like route away from you. So that's also like a food for thought, I guess, there. Okay, so AI should no longer use Prayer of Swiftness or Sign of Sigmar out of combat. I think this is like a good change for the AI because yeah, it will like essentially increase the AI mobility. So good change, I guess. Okay, Divine Fervor or Matriarch OP reduction went from -1 offense points to -2 offense. So after you successfully cast a spell, the next melee attack is going to be reduced by 2 points. So I think this is going to be, well, actually, I thought like Sigmar Matriarch was already like an incredible character for the sisters. Now it's going to be like even better. What you're going to be essentially doing and what you're probably going to be seeing is like a lot of Comet Sigmar Matriarchs, where you cast like 3 Comets, or possibly if you have a quick prayer, you could even potentially end up with something like 4 Comets. And yeah, and like people are either gonna be running like Sigmarite Great Hammer with this. What you could do is like do a quick prayer, Comet of Sigmar attack, quick prayer, Comet of Sigmar attack, quick prayer, Comet of Sigmar attack. So you're gonna be incredibly efficient with your offense points if you don't fail your cast, obviously. But yeah, it's gonna be like really powerful, essentially. I think there might be also just some like completely insane people who could potentially try to use all of their like strategy points on casting with quick prayer, for example, Sigmar's Might. And like let's say you have also a rune of um, a rune that has like a 50% chance to give you like offense points back. You have like a single weapon, you could like potentially get like up to 10, like even more than 10 attacks with your single weapon. That's a little bit crazy, but you know, theoretically it is possible. Kind of interesting. It's definitely like an amazing buff for matriarch for sure. So if you're like a sisters enjoyer, you'll definitely you will love these changes. Okay, so we have also like a bit of a change for the flagellant, and flagellant now has like a movement of 7, and fanaticism armor went from plus 20% to plus 10%. Like the higher your movement is, your characters, the more efficient you become with your strategy points. So this is also like why Skaven in general are incredible, because they start with a movement of 8. They have like a much easier time saving up their resources, their strategy points for like going into a stance, because it costs like less movement for them. But this also affects this change your ambush range and your charge range. So let's say before, Flagellant was kind of like a dodge armor tank, I guess. I was gonna have like less of that armor, but it's gonna be more of a menace when it comes to like running around and just like getting into position and like catching people off. There's also like the passive that the guys have, the witch hunters. Is called ardent cleansing. So if you pick up a word stone, your movement range is going to be increased by 2 meters for 3 turns. Um, so you're gonna have like a henchman at 9 movement, so it's gonna be like pretty damn good. Um, yeah, yeah. So definitely like a good change for flagellant in my. There is like a thing that you could argue that this is like ultimately a nerf, but is it? Would you rather have like, because like getting armor absorption is pretty difficult normally, right? From like passives, but like you already have to begin with a character that is not gonna have much armor absorption to begin with. You don't have access to helmets either. Um, I don't know. I don't think it will like. I don't know. I think it's just like. I think it's gonna be like especially nice, flagellant wise, like early on in your warband. Yeah, like I think that 7 movement is gonna be quite significant in like the overall feel of flagellant. You can definitely feel that buff. And like gathering resources around, I think it's gonna like ultimately make flagellant better character, I guess. Um yeah. I don't know. But like I'm not against the change. Oh. Okay. Next one that we have is guns no longer cost an extra OP to Overwatch. So with guns like no longer costing an extra OP, it means essentially it's gonna cost like 2 offense points for the guns to go into Overwatch, and I think that's kind of cool. Like if you had a skill, let's Smuggler is like the character that is like the gunner. Yeah, if you had entrenched, like this was already doing that. This was like essentially overriding the Overwatch cost. So this sort of a buff just got transferred to the regular Overwatch, and I think that's kind of cool. Like it might even be possible that some crazy people will use Rune of like Surprise, and we're gonna like maybe see a crazy Overwatch mercenary build where you have like, let's say, 3 or like 5 what do you call them, marksmen or something like that. Because like let's take a look at the range of marksmen, right? Let's say using actually hunting rifle, so that's like 55 damage, right? We can like bump it up with the ballistic skill, like 85 damage. Let's like also add like 55 times 0.9 from the Rune of Surprise, so it's gonna be like 50. Yeah, it's gonna be like something like 50. So you're gonna end up with like a range of between 100 to 130 damage from an Overwatch before like armor absorption. And let's say you do this for like 3 characters, and somebody has to eat those Overwatch shots. That could be pretty powerful. So it's a pretty interesting idea for the like an Overwatcher. Yeah. But yeah, the reload is like really rough for guns. Right? And like blunderbuss Overwatch, I don't think that's happening because of the reduced range. I think I can see like this happening with like a hunting rifle, because hunting rifle has like 40. But like on heroes, if you're gonna be using hunting rifle, you'd probably prefer the entrenched stuff mastery, because it would give you plus 30% critical hit chance. I think handgun here just kind of suffers from the range, just 30. It's not that great, but it has like armor bypass absorption. Well, you could also just use a Rune of Perforation instead of Rune of Surprise. That's also a possibility. Either way, I think this is a cool change, but I don't know if it's gonna like make it possible to play like a gun build. I'm not sure if that's going to. But yeah, the Wolf Priest now has access to combat expertise instead of Absolute Faith. Yeah, so I think this is also like a pretty good change. So Absolute Faith made absolutely no sense for the Wolf Priest, because Wolf Priest already got like significant like all alone fear, terror, and leadership tests by 35% from the passive. So it was just kind of useless. There's also like a change to combat expertise. So in the past, it used to give like plus 5% armor and plus 5% melee resistance on the basic when you were like engaged by 2 or more enemies. Now it's gonna be that when you are engaged by 2 or more enemies at the basic, you're just gonna get like 10% more melee resistance, and for the mastery, you're as a bonus also gonna get like plus 10% armor absorption. So this is I kind of like this change. I don't think, well, actually, just like Wolf Priest gaining combat expertise. Yeah, let's discuss that for a little bit. So, Wolf Priest is kind of like known for like being a character that you can have like infinite armor on it. So, like giving Wolf Priest a combat expertise kind of like enhance that experience, I guess, the armor absorption experience. I guess it's kind of cool. So, you have like Ignore Pain, you're gonna have Hardy, you're gonna have Armor Proficient, and you're gonna have Guard Stance. So normally you're at 55%, then you get 10% from Ignore Pain, 65, 75. Now this is like 85, and you can have 105% armor absorption. The Warrior Priest. Actually, like the maximum how much you can get of armor absorption is kept in Mordheim at 95%. But still, like going over 95% armor, it should still be relevant as far as I know, just because of like not like armor penetration, but armor bypass. So like this is possible to do, but I think it's gonna be just kind of amazing, honestly. But definitely doable. What I kind of do like is like maybe it could be just a cool idea to use combat expertise now on just the basic, but not on like a wolf breeze. But you could, for example, just like why the order change is so freaking cool. You could also just use it on like a captain leader. So what's the idea of the captain, right? You probably have Web of Steel. So if you are in a 1v1 with a captain with a Web of Steel, this is probably like the ideal situation that you want to happen. Because like the enemy is gonna be afraid to attack into you because you're gonna have like a, well, your counterattack is not gonna cost anything. The scary part is if somebody like, if you have like another enemy coming onto your captain in order to just hit you, so that they get like so that they get rid of your Web of Steel. In that case, you also just kind of want like a melee resistance. So we might also just see a sort of a captain now that is focused on melee resistance as well as a parry. So it could look something like this, like a shield specialist here, and probably hardy as well, because like I don't think you can go wrong with a hard. Maybe like the flawless position, or if you don't really want like flawless positioning, you go for with a luck rune and go for something like serenity. So I think like a build like this would be playable, right? Because when is your captain realistically in danger? When somebody pierces parry, or when you get like engaged by more than one enemy and they are able to pierce your parry that way. So it's a pretty cool change. I like it. Alright, next one that we have is combat focus change to hit. Went from 5% mastery 10% to 10% to mastery. I think like in the past, like 5% was just almost negligible. Right now, I feel like this basic version is gonna be playable, and the mastery version is gonna be maybe playable. It's kind of similar to a Daredevil. Usually I don't engage on the same turn that I use Daredevil. Usually I engage on the turn afterwards. And in that case, I'm gonna make use of two turns of Daredevil rather than like 3 turns of Daredevil, but I'm gonna get like more attacks in. So the similar logic could maybe be also applied for the combat focus here, where you have like chance to hit increase by 15% for the 2 turns, where you like prepare this in advance. I think like the basic version is definitely going to be playable. I think it could be played on something like an impressive, but in this case, if you're playing on impressive, because normally you have like 9 offense points, right? So you get like 4 basic attacks. And I think if you're gonna be using combat focus, probably also gonna be using the adrenaline rush mastery, which I really love on impressives. So with this, you're gonna be also able to get in like that 5th attack in. So I think like this, something like this could be playable now, like this sort of a combination. And it's might be better than like insulting somebody. You won't have to use like the strategy points. You can use those strategy points to like approach the enemy or like to lure them away. Um, okay, so there's that. Oh, so new perk, Vitality, that's like Paranoia added into the mod is really freaking cool. So essentially what it does, it just gives you 10 additional stats. Youngblood has like more physical stats, mental and martial stats, more max leadership and more max of other stats, and the same thing is kind of like applied to Witch Hunter. So I think both of these are like great changes actually. Yeah, I think they're just kind of like great changes. I mean, you could see me like getting hyped about a possible sniper shot Youngblood. You can actually play like a sniper shot Youngblood. It might actually be even better than the. Yeah, a sniper shot Youngblood is probably better than like Smuggler at this point. So that's fascinating. That is really, really cool. But we'll get back to Youngblood later. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect that. That is really freaking cool. because with these additional stats, you don't have to like for the Youngblood build, for the sniper shot Youngblood, you don't have to invest into quick recovery anymore. You're gonna end up with like more passive skill slots. You're also gonna end up with more. I mean, you can still do it. Grab also quick recovery, and then you can like max out your ballistic skill or accuracy if you want to do that way. But then probably also just gonna be, if you're going for 20 ballistic skill, you're gonna probably add like +4 accuracy in your like armor anyway. But yeah, right now you don't have to use this. So that's kind of cool. So now you're gonna like end up with more stuff, more fun toys to play with. Sharpshooter. I could also just want to like knowledge Mordheim. But like for example now, you can use your points on entrenched mastery. So that's interesting. Right? Instead of using it on quick recovery. And this could be like very brutal. Anyway, like these stats, they help out these characters a lot. What I was also like, for example, thinking about is like a Daredevil build for a Witch Hunter. Now this is like completely playable. Cool. You would grab like Book of Training Strength, and because you have like amazing like, martial stats as a Witch Hunter, you can go for this. You can go for this, and you can go for it level and physical grimoire. So you would play a weak spot or the Daredevil or the Daredeviling. And because you are like a witch hunter and you start at 6 agility, you could even like grab like a quick swap. Just this small stat change. I don't think it's like small at all. I think it's like amazing. Like these characters are like suddenly a lot more playable, and I think there might be like a Daredevil Witch Hunter warband, which is pretty damn exciting. With together with Executioner, who would have like the dodge bypass there. So this is just like a really cool change, and I like utterly love it. Okay, so now Witch Hunter Captain Hunter's Patience dodge counter is now free, relatively free. The discount is up to 9 offense points in case like somebody like repeatedly attacks you with Daredevil, but let's say it's free. Let's say it's free now. So this is absolutely amazing. The most awkward thing about Witch Hunter Captain was that it still cost you like offense points. Even if you dodged, it cost you like 1 offense point to like counterattack back. And this was like why like Captain was a million times a better leader with this passive. If you wanted to make like this sort of like a counterattack Witch Hunter Captain build before, you also had to use always a shield. And you always had to use like a rune which gives you upon dodging like an 80% chance to get like to get 2 offense points back if you manage to dodge. So with this change, where counterattack costs like no offense points, you don't have to do this anymore. Right? You don't have to do this anymore. In fact, we might even see like a two-handed like greatsword captain, which is still gonna be like focusing on the orders. And that's pretty interesting idea. So you like order, and then like somebody tries to attack you, and you counterattack with a full swing of greatsword. And not only that, you're gonna have like a very high critical chance. And in that case, you would also probably be using like counterblow. So due to this change in the passive and the change with the order, I think it's a lot more realistic for you to build like an actual counterblow Witch Hunter Captain where you would not feel terrible that you're playing like kind of a shitty build. Like right now, I think this this looks utterly playable. And the enchantments are more powerful on two-handed weapons. So you could like even have a rune which has like 90% chance to remove offense points. Like somebody tries to attack you, you attack back with that enchantment and you take away one offense point. It can be like really freaking powerful. Or you imagine you attack back and you crit somebody, you like stun them. Yeah, I think it's gonna be really good. Yeah, I think this also just makes a lot more sense of the character now. Next one is also like Captain Swift reaction parry counter is also now free. So I think this is also like an utterly amazing change. I think like the best build for the captain was always like one-handed weapon or like yeah like one-handed hammer and a shield. I think that was always like the best uh, the best build for the captain. People were trying to play like a halberd captain in the past, but again, it's just like so utterly awkward because like each counter attack starts costing more and more offense points, and you don't really want to like save up your offense points for later. You want to use them now and just be effective now. I believe it was like us, maybe. No, I don't think it was like it was somebody. Somebody was playing in the like long time ago, a halberd captain, and it wasn't looking great. Like right now, I feel like this is actually playable, and this is really freaking cool, right? And again, like the kind of like a same thing applies. It's gonna be again like an order captain. You use like 3 orders, and then you start counterattacking like a halberd, like 80 damage before armor absorption. That's a lot of damage. People are gonna be like scared to attack you. I mean, still you're gonna be like, of course, vulnerable to like range attacks. But yeah, Albert Captain actually playable now. So this is awesome. Okay. Now, what else do we have? Executioner has Sigmar's Aegis perk now. So Sigmar's Aegis perk is a perk that Witch Hunter Captain has, and it gives him like plus 20% magic resistance. Now, also, like the Executioner is going to have this perk. I think this change is absolutely amazing. I think this is one of the things that should define Witch Hunters. They're just like being more like better at doing magic resistance than the rest of the war bands. I think it's definitely their part of their identity. Well, also sisters do it like incredibly well, but yeah, which also just kind of like brings me to Born Leader Ogre. Sorry that I'm jumping, but like with Born Leader, you don't have to use Battle Tank anymore. Yeah, so this is also like an amazing change to Ogre. And you have like more slots for melee resistance tanking and like magic resistance possibly. That's freaking awesome. But yeah, coming back to the executioner, yeah, like this is great because the more magic resistance you have, the less you have to like actually invest into magic resistance, and the more effective your like magic resistance is going to become, the more you invest into. I don't know. It's just like it kind of goes both ways. Like you have to like you can invest less into it, but also just like the more you invest into magic resistance at this point, is gonna be becoming like more and more effective. So anyway, usually you play like 20 intelligence executioner, so you're already at 40% magic resistance. If you put like amulet on him, you're gonna be at 55%. If you decide to also use not this one, use Witchfinder's Ward, you're gonna be at 70. Sorry, you're gonna be at 85%. You can also use resist magic here. So you could do something like that and be like at 85% magic resistance, which is quite decent. Or you could also just try to become like completely immune to magic at 115%. Completely immune, but you know, like it can be reduced, but still. But yeah, this is really freaking cool because usually if you're playing Executioner, you would have to pay the tax of going Resilient because you're not like a large impressive. So yeah, this is just kind of great for Executioner. It essentially just kind of like frees up a lot of like the passive skills. Um, yeah, and I really like it. Okay, next one that we have. Blah 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 blah. Oh, and there's like also one change with the Howl of the Wolf. Now like the basic version is gonna reduce the cost of ambush instead of charge. So the way Howl of the Wolf worked previously. So Howl of the Wolf is like a spell here. So it like it increases like melee hit chance and critical hit chance if you're like engaged with the same enemy with your ally. And it increased like melee hit chance and critical hit chance. Sorry, it also like reduced the cost of charge by 1. But this was also like this sort of effect was also on the basic version. You were like essentially able to stack both of these and you know have like 1 offense point charge, and with mercenaries combined with mercenaries you were able to create like a scenario where you would be charging for 1 offense points and disengaging for 0 for 0 strategy points. So you would be like constantly mighty charging with one-handed weapon the enemy, and it was like better. Yeah, so this got changed, and like right now it's I basically just kind of like abused that interaction in one of the tournaments, which I don't know. I still have like actually like a video of it, and I still feel bad for having used it. But yeah. All right. That's it for the patch. Overall, I think these changes are like absolutely amazing. And maybe what I'm concerned about is the Sigma matriarch might be like super awesome, but good patch. All right. Thanks for watching. Take care and bye bye.